Hi there, Randy Green here, and we are now in video 2 or podcast 2, if you like, where we are discussing and exploring what it means to be a chaos pilot, and at the same time also what are the skill sets of a chaos pilot. And I want to put a little bit in here that I made this video after I did the whole project update on July 22nd, as well as I put in here a video I made for the whole Everyday Living Club that is no longer there, but that video holds information which is usable for us here as changemakers. So I don't have to repeat myself, but there are two different contexts, so to speak, one for YouTube and one for another group that is kind of finishing off or trying to or getting ready to finish off the full cycle work that goes with the progression work. And in the whole template science courses, the last course 2 and course 3, there we jump from the fourth cycle perception of the template connected to the vibrational field and goes into the radiation field that are connected to the consciousness units. And that's where the changemaker gets his or her emplacement, so to speak, because this is the changemakers for the ones that have left the base program, are getting ready to complete or have completed the fourth cycle and are getting into the fifth cycle. The whole completing the fourth cycle happens pretty quickly because now it's all about learning to administer what is connected to the vibrational field, going down to the emotional field and the subconscious, learning to deal with the entities and everything that's connected there, get rid of the regress genetics, and then begin getting ready to move into the fifth cycle. And that's where the changemaker and the chaos pilot comes in, because that work has to be done pretty quickly, as you kind of realize with the whole Everyday Living Club, where I'm literally just saying, yeah, we are in a state of evacuation. The space arcs are the proof of that. They are the parallel universal matrix are getting ready to remove the energy systems of their hybrid kids. And once that happens within the next 5 years, we will have returnees of some of the enhanced humans programs and other realities. They will come in and take over these vessels, and then they will become part of that group that will continue within our planetary setting until 2035. So we are having physical forms that will be kind of hub-like. They will have different souls coming in, going out, doing stuff, moving on, especially these hybrid kids. So they can shift quite a lot and change quite a lot. And it's up to us to notice, 2 months ago, you were this insectoid hybrid kind of thing going, that has been pulled out. What's left now? Okay, now you're struggling with some of the subconscious residual energies of the ones that provided the genetics for the hybrid energy system, and that's collapsing. And while that's happening, the dark ones will try to take it over. Well, good for you. You do that battle right there. Okay, the dark one is gone. Okay, who's now? Who's there? Who's inhabiting that body? So that's how things are going to go. And we will succumb to the same waves of influx and outflux, to put it that way, if we are not observant, because when a system goes into decline and into its devastation cycle, then there is panic all over the board. Just keep that in mind. That's why I want to put in the chaos pilot, because I want to put us a little bit into a different scenario. Let us do the movie 2012, and it has many different aspects of it. But what I want to focus on here, because everything has many different aspects, nothing is just one thing. Everything is a complex system of many layers of information, as you have learned already. I want to focus on the lead character. Can't remember his name, doesn't matter. Can't remember his actor name, doesn't matter. But the author that are kind of seeing the trends and are a little bit chaotic already. He's a little bit kind of a loser, right? He has written about utopia and what happens if the world goes under. How will people respond to that? That's in his book. So it kind of has done the research. He has explored the possibilities of it, and he has come up with his own meaning about that. And that's what researchers do. And that's when you study something, that is for you to have an opinion about something, a kind of a game plan that if that should happen, then I can do A, B, or C, right? That's the research. That's all you need to do with the research. The research is not telling you about reality. It's telling you about different aspects of what you're investigating. but the reality will be what's in front of you. So how do we deal with what is in front of us? That's where the chaos pilot comes in. So let us go a little bit further with the 2012 movie, because he can barely put himself together. And, you know, I would be annoyed with the male characters that are in that movie. Just when I look at the male characters that are being portrayed, although I kind of recognize them in my everyday life as well and around the planet, it's kind of, and you know, there are females, and I can get very annoyed with some of the female characters as well and the personas they play out, because these are all fucked up, weak, undecisive, sheeple beyond going into insectoid, having really not much other processes in their brain than the instinctual emotional level. That goes with the instinctual level of your brain, the little brain, as you like, that goes creating or connecting. That's 80% of your neurons that are focused on all the automatic processes of your body, having no clue of how the body works or what's going on there, just reacting to whatever's going on there, like a bug. If you put your foot down, it will run away, unless you have this magnetic pull as a releaser, which I have. When I put my foot down, the bugs are coming my way. I'm kind of like the you know, the guy, I can't remember what's called, that's playing the flute, and all the rats are coming his way so he can take them out of town. Okay. So this is kind of the difference. I attract this kind of thing because I work as a releaser. So that's part of it. I want to put in here as well, because that's a line of thought that I've heard many times with people I've been working with that has a lot of parasitic entities and stuff. Once I begin to pull these up to the surface, people turn around and think I am the one that is off and they are the ones that are right. They're going to this separatistic modality where they are putting themselves into this position. Oh, I'm this. Oh, I'm that. Oh, I am so fantastic. And you are wrong. So they are doing the separation, dichotomy, division, polarity setting to protect themselves, and to the entities are doing that to push me away so I will not be able to work further with that person. And then it's typical that if I have mentioned that people are under these entities will twist it around and make people believe that I am actually the cause of evil, and I am the cause of what's going wrong, and I am the one that is completely off. And I just want to put in here, as we also know, again, I mentioned the Gospels. So there's a little bit of a Gospel street today, apparently, where you kind of have the rabbis are accusing Jesus of being in a cohorts or in alignment with the devil or working with the devil. And he responds, can there be two masters in the same house? And with humans today, oh yeah, definitely. And we're showing that in the Gospel of Mark as well, where we have the different people that are possessed by legions of demons. So that's a lot of things. That's the chaos, the inner chaos that people are also to learn to navigate through when we're being chaos pilots. It's not just about the outer chaos. It's also about what we activate inside ourselves. But I want to put it in a little bit more modern way of putting this. Just because you work with people that are drug addicts does not make you a drug addict. Just because you are helping people out of poverty does not mean you necessarily are poor yourself. Just to put that in context. So you kind of get, people have different skill sets. And the reason why I work as a releaser, just to cement that, is that I do that because I go so far back that many of the things and whatever is coming my way used to be part of the original worlds, and therefore it's part of my job description to assist them out of this system. I've always been one of these that were fighting to get the things right. When it went wrong, I fought to figure out how to solve it. And once we reach the demarcation line, I am the one that helps doing the exodus. So this is just to kind of get, that's my original purpose in the different systems I've been part of. And I'm very skilled at it. So I know what I'm doing, and I'm not asking you to do the same thing. But I am asking you to become a chaos pilot that is in control of what you are. And this is when people get inflated by their entities. they always think that they are so much more than they are. That's a typical sign of a possession or an inflation, all depending. Possession is something that comes from outside, goes in and takes over. Inflation is when something from your inner dimensional, the interdimensional levels of your energy system, that means the higher layers of your energy system, begins to descend into your human awareness and begin to take over because you are not in control of it. And therefore it has grown stronger because it has fed off the chaos energies that are around you. So that does not make you a chaos pilot. That means that you have now become a leaf in the wind that is under control of the forces that are in your energy system. That's not a chaos pilot. That's an inflated humans with no power, no real power, and no real control of what's going on. So, and we will have periods in time where we are floating around because we are being attacked quite a lot. And in the beginning, of course, it's a steep learning curve, uphill, being thrown into the deep water and not know what the fuck we are doing. But the way we respond to these things, and that's where I see the difference between the ones that can move on and can become a chaos pilot or a change maker. It depends on the level of self-control. I can always see there are people that are completely losing it and are just giving in to whatever's taking them over. These are the ones that have a weakness streak that they really need to deal with. And I know quite a lot of that weakness go back into childhood traumas. And we can discuss whether or not these childhood traumas are actually put there to prevent you from activating, or these childhood traumas are put there because your energy system is so demolished that that's all it is within. That's all the energies it holds. That's what it is. So we cannot just say just because we had a hard childhood with a lot of chaos, that makes us brilliant beings that have all the activation potentials, and therefore we have been put under this handling of the family setting. We've been put into that family to ensure we would never activate, but would be used as harvested for harvesting purposes by being surrounded by people that literally would ensure that our energies would be low enough so that they could recalibrate our original genetics into the level they needed, and by that be able to harvest them. So that's one point of it. The other one is that, yeah, you've just done so many lives inside the enclosure and you have fucked up your energy system to such a degree. So that's all you can be born into. And we need to be wise enough and smart enough to know the difference. So that's part of being a chaos pilot too, knowing when we are inflated by our own entities and by that have succumbed to some of our archetypes, as Jung used to call it. Carl Gustav Jung, he called it the inflation of the archetypes that are possessing us, temporarily taking us over. And we are then identifying ourselves with this, whatever it is, typically the guru, the teacher, the guardian, these kind of things that people are playing out. And you can see they change personality. They begin the spiritual work and then they become something. And one of the ones I really want to put in there is the fun one, Russell Brand. He has become, I know he's also doing some kind of martial art, and you can see that on him. So he's this weird conflicting guru martial art kind of archetype, and at the same time he's still a comedian, and then he tries to be a politician at the same time. It's a very interesting mix, very confusing because his different archetypes are literally struggling with each other, which makes him a little bit. He used to be funny. Now I'm just kind of looking at it and saying, are you sure you're really on top of things here? I'm always a harsh judge. You know that because I see these things, and that kind of bleeds through the persona and what people think they are and what they're saying. And you will see that in me as well. When I'm struggling with certain things, I shift between the different personalities I have had in previous lifetimes when I work on the different levels. And one time I'm in the fourth cycle, and this speech here is in the fourth cycle because I've had a couple of days of illness, but we also had the heat and we had the change of timelines and the beginning of something new going into what we call the fifth month, so therefore new energies and therefore on a low. And then you'll see during the month I'll work myself up to becoming higher and higher leveled, as when I end up on the 20th with the highest level, which is where I usually do my whole project update. So you kind of get, oh yeah, then I'm getting what's going on in reality. Then a plunge down. So this is the merry-go-round is normal for all of us, the ups and the downs. And then we go out, we do something, we get imprinted, we get entities, we clear them out. That's part of the game. So it's not that we're pristine and we keep ourselves inside so we don't go out ever, because you will get the same when you sleep, or when you eat something, or whatever's going on. The more you go into the density energies, the more affectable you will be. So that's part of the chaos pilot mentality as well, knowing you are in constant energetic chaos now. Our world has gone into the devastation cycle. So everything from here, we know it already, the entropy, right? Everything goes from order into chaos. That's the entropy. And it does so because nothing can keep repeating itself forever. The continued propulsion is not impossible due to the residual energies that is always created with kinetic processes. And that's why our reality program is breaking down. That's why nothing is maintained. That's why nothing keeps going, because it has run on the core crystals. They have broken down due to the residual energies, the lack of responsiveness of transformative forms and powers of humans. And by that, the grand harvesting, the things that's been done here, it was all doomed to, at some point, the rubber band would snap, and we are there now. And there is a point of no return to this one, including the climate changes, which, I've been talking about a long time. And I, in a way, I wish I continue what I did 10 years ago, saying, yes, just a matter of accumulation of the different fields and the different things that are happening around the planet. It's a matter of you have that breaking point where all of the patterns then go together and becomes a conglomerate of forces, which then becomes a field in itself, levels out, and then it does this huge synergetic leap where the exponential factor will just go not just as a little bit of climate change here or there. No, we're seeing it literally from year to year. Now the exponential factor is on that rate, where the joint forces have now gathered together, and each year they're gathering momentum because humans are not knowing how to transform their own energy systems, being all of the cracks that are coming through because the old world order program is falling apart, as well as the event program, which was mainly engineered for the hybrids anyways. So everything is falling apart around us, which means we're having the collapse of different systems and different programs and different cubes and what have you. And with that, the exponential factor of the different fields that are gathering together will eventually go into that huge kaboom, where we are really going to be in some circumstances that really demands chaos pilots. So let us go back to the chaos pilot. So we're kind of having two different angles on it. We're having the ones that have been initiated childhoods because they have a high viability rate. And we're having the ones that have been initiated childhoods because they have an extremely low viability rate. That group has not got the strength to transform what has been going on in their childhood. They do not know to change these weaknesses into strength. Instead, they get inflated by it. And then they puff themselves up and think there is something more than they actually are, where all of their actions prove that they have got no piloting going on, no navigation skills, and they are incapable of transforming as they're supposed to. It's all words, it's all research, it's all knowledge. It has nothing to do with effectively learning to put all of that into practice, which will then change the behavior, change the way that reality works around them, and change the way that they process this level of information and actually put it into practicality and solutions that leads to progression. So this is the huge difference between the ones that think they're chaos pilots because of their childhood settings and the ones that actually are. And we need to know the difference there and be wise enough to look at ourselves and say, okay, how far have most of you done with the whole psychological work? And I know many of you are from countries where it is not seen well upon to do psychological work. You do the wellness therapy, as in kind of, I do this to optimize myself, but I'm functional and I'm good, and I'm doing therapy because I'm such a good person that I want to become even more skilled at what I'm doing. So that's kind of the wellness therapy. The true therapy is kind of where you really dig deep and you go in and touch all the dirty laundry and you transform that, all of your weaknesses, everything that's been done to you, all the things you have come under. That's kind of what the existential type of therapy that Viktor Frankl talks about. Viktor Frankl, where he was part of the Nazi camps in Germany, and he watched how many people perished because they did not have that resilience. They did not have that strength to keep going no matter whatever was thrown at them. If they didn't have the belief that they would make it, they would perish. So they had this innate kind of ability to adjust to the circumstances, still survive it, and come out on the other end not so traumatized. They had the skill set to deal with trauma. So that's part of the viability rate we're here talking about. How capable are you to deal with trauma, and how capable are you when you get possessed by entities to stop it or work with it or transform it, or kind of have this block stopper where you just don't go instinctual and just blast out all of your dirty laundry and become volatile and irrational and begins to send me shit mails and whatever some of you are doing when you lose it. And that's just kind of where, yeah, you're not a change maker. Forget it. You don't have the viability rate to stop yourself. You have not worked enough with yourself to have that core strength that you think you have, but you don't, because your actions are showing that you don't have it. And the denial system and how the inflation works and the words that are coming out of your mouth and how you try to puff yourself up, being this guy, I will huff and I will puff and I will blow your house apart. That's not what it is, because you see where I'm going. Okay, I want to go with the 2012 movie with the Chaos Pilot, because there we have a personality structure that progresses during the movie. He is chaotic to begin with, not the kind of male I would be around, but typical. We have seen men are chaos makers, not chaos pilots. You could call it a kind of pilot. They are surfacing over it, trying to avoid changing it. A chaos pilot is in the middle of the storm and still navigates and still transforms. So a chaos pilot is also a change maker. And those who are just kind of chaos makers are not change makers. They are not the ones that they have a lot to learn. Let me just put it that way. Okay, so, but he is observant. He gets into certain situations. I talked about that in the whole Everyday Life Club, the windows of opportunity. He gets himself into situations where he does not just take for granted what is being explained. Some of it he kind of a little bit, yeah, that's a little bit too far out when he meets this Woody, whatever, in the camper that are kind of having this program where he's talking about the world is going under and that scientists have been taken out, and all these conspiracy theories. And our author, head person, lead character, he's just kind of, yeah, well, it's a little bit too far out, but he got the information. And then he has these different experiences, which he kind of thinks is odd, as in kind of before he meets Woody or whatever he's called, he gets into this. He was just going on a trip. Yes, he's breaking the rules a little bit, as men do all the fucking time. Kind of, yeah. The sign's saying don't trespass. And there's, yeah, who cares? I'll go there anyways, which is also what men do. They are chaos makers. It's programmed into them. Instead of using all of that spatial skills into some really grand sciences, they are creating chaos with it instead, because they're programmed that way. It's part of their shutting down mechanism, which reminds me of another experience that goes into Australia, which I will talk about in a while. I have talked about Australia, but I've did it in a different context. And quite a lot of the chaos that we will encounter, I saw down there, and that's why I want to bring it. Sorry about that. That's why I want to bring it to the table, as well as experiences that shows us some of the things that we're going to see in the future. So our lead character, he then gets dragged out by the military, and then he meets this other guy that is kind of the scientist, drinking here. And then he he notices that it's kind of odd that the military is there with just a normal geological survey. Kind of a little bit odd, right? Nature is odd, things are off, military is present. It's a little bit over the top. And then after that, he meets Woody and the conspiracists, the conspiracy theoretics. I forgot the word, doesn't matter. And then he kind of goes on and he delivers the kids back home. They have the whole mosquito attack. And then they see that kind of earthquake that happens back home and they get called home. But he has noticed something. He has noticed one thing, and that is that Woody conspiracy thinker character in the movie says when the government say that everything is fine and it's over and everything is good, that's where you really pay attention, because that's where things are really getting wrong. This is cloaking the truth. And we're seeing that in the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger as, which is again, have you ever really noticed what that surname actually means? He should shift surname. Schwarzenegger. It means black Negro in English. Horrible last name. Anyways. So, Arnold, anyways, so Arnold is standing there as the governor and say everything is fine and there's nothing to be afraid of and the earthquakes have calmed, and then they have a huge earthquake that shakes down the entire studio and what have you. So that's kind of, some things come out of your mouth, but that's not what's really going on, right? Cover up, as we have seen it many times. I am pretty sure we are not getting the news, including there is this movie on Netflix as well. It's called Greenland. You should actually watch it, because that's where a selection of humans get the call outs on their iPhones and are to go to specific bases where they will be transferred to Greenland, and then the huge disaster will happen. So that's also, it's already put there that certain groups will be elected for this. There are the ones that are clever enough to get themselves there, as we're seeing in 2012, and then there are the ones that are elected, as we're seeing in the movie The Greenland. So just to put it there. So point being is he kind of puts together the pieces of the puzzles. He sees the trends. He listens to what he gets of information, even though he kind of pushes it away. When he's in the situation, he puts together the patterns. He hears from this Woody conspiracy thinker that they're creating arcs here as huge boats that are going to manage the whole flooding of the planet and get into the ocean as an attempt to deal with the changes of the continental drift of the tectonic plates, which is an okay strategy. You can also go off planet, go on Mars, or go into the spacecrafts or space arcs. So we are having the water arcs and we're having the space arcs. And I'm pretty sure there are, I know there are sub-oceanic labs and science labs, similar as we have the ISS in the space. We are also having similar type of what we call sub-oceanic water stations. That would be the best, because it's not space stations, so they are oceanic stations, but built in a similar manner to withstand whatever pressure, radiation, whatever will come our way. It's already in play. That's part of the Enhanced Human Program. Point being is the features he shows out there is his personal growth, how he deals with information, how he puts things together, and how he reacts to it. That's the most important thing. He reacts to it. Even though everybody else saying, oh, you're fucking crazy, blah, 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 whatever, it proves out that he's right. And he responds to it, and he navigates them via the little pieces he got here and there, putting together with the two rich kids that are talking about, we have bought the tickets, we're going there, you're going to drown, kind of thing. And every rational human would just say, yeah, there's just two brats that are just acting out. But the matter of the fact is they're telling the truth. And he knows it because he already got the hints from the conspiracy thinker. So he kind of have this, okay, something's going on here. Clearly, there are portions of humans that are going somewhere, and then he gets this huge journey with the group that are going to make it, and some of them will sacrifice themselves, others will not, and then we go into this whole question of moral. Are we going to leave these people behind, or are we just going to let them on board that have got the tickets and have paid for it, the rich and the famous and the elected and the elite and the bloodlines and what have you? And that's the situation we are in right now. So these movies, everybody's kind of focused on the catastrophe and the tectonic plate continental shifts, dynamics, which is definitely a possibility as it recreates itself out of this holographic overlay and resumes its original reality energies. Whether or not we will know of it, most of it will probably happen in okay, I'm not going to reveal that one yet because you're not ready for that level of information, so you don't understand that. It's not going to happen that way, but it is going to happen in a similar manner, but you will not experience it as they are, because there's no point in that with the alien technology that's already here. And we are living in a holographic overlay, so you can kind of figure that one out. It is, of course, going to happen differently. Okay, so point being with this one is we are having a personality structure that is kind of a little bit of a loser in the normal base program setting. But when shit hits the fan, he shows credible insight and pioneering and innovative ways of solving something nobody knows what is. And he shows these skills of navigating in chaos in these extreme situations, just with the car, the way he is running the car, the way he is moving through every buildings that are collapsing around him, which is a brilliant exemplification of the base program collapsing. And he is literally just kind of saying, yeah, we are having this enormous shift in things. And interesting enough, I was listening to I'm just, as I said, do a little bit of YouTube kind of thing. The physics girl, she was actually talking about quantum computers and time crystals, and how quantum computers can now work with these symmetrical properties of probability, and by that create what we can kind of say a time crystal, which is in my it's not accurate, but I know where they're going. They're trying to create plasma crystals. So we are kind of knowing where that is going. They're trying to create the holographic features of the crystal technology using quantum computers. So that is part of that one, as they're trying to recreate that. And as always, I'm listening to it and I find it very interesting. And then I completely forget it because it's just kind of human technology that the only reason why it will work in the future is because it's going to be imbued with alien technology, and humans will only see one side of it. So their explanations are not that important for me. The important thing about a quantum computer is that it goes into the quantum fields and works with the baronic matter in a specific way. So they are trying to recreate the plasma crystals that will then be able to, in the future, perhaps carry some of the new programs under the enhanced humans. So that's part of that project. And the enhanced humans are behind the whole CERN, and Hadron Colliders and all of these, trying to use the reality program sciences to continue the reality program, which of course is not going to work because they're missing the point. Everything is based upon alien technology. So there is no reality science as they know of it. They are just observing, and then they are going into this whole deduction that this is what it means within their paradigm and the left-wing brotherhood scientific understanding. Maxwell, Einstein, and that group of general physics, as well as going into quantum physics, and still missing completely the point. And the only reason, and what will that lead to will eventually lead, that group will go right into the traps of transhumanism. But that's their lesson to learn. They are just following the lunar devastation, old timeline event type of racial understanding and collective memory of how to do things, and they will activate more and more within that, but they will still continue to do the wrong decisions, because that's why they got here to begin with, as part of that insertion of lunars, which would then be part of the left-wing brotherhood and amplify the reality program to run on frequency energies and the sciences to be implemented that they had developed in the lunar system, which led to the complete destruction of their system. So they have not learned their lesson lessons. They're still trying to harness the energies of the networks within the setting of the timeline event. And that's what quantum energies are. Quantum energies are the in-between state of the original density energies and the timeline event energies. It's a kind of an in-between, just in the middle, and that's why we have got some of the features of the density energies: possibility, probability, entanglement. And at the same time, we have the crystallization and the downscaling and working with the emptiness potentials and creating that into crystallized matter, which goes on this crystalline pattern of repetitive sequences, as we're seeing it in fractals as well, or in spirals, or whatever we are dealing with here on this planet. It's all crystalline patterns that are repeating itself in infinity until it goes into entropy and chaos. And that is, again, the residuals that comes out of crystallization process, which is a side effect of the timeline event. So therefore, I don't pay much attention to these sciences. I'm just listening, saying, oh, that's why you are now. Yeah, you'll get there eventually. I know they will. There's just an implementation process. It's not discoveries done by scientists. It is integration of information that they are unfolding and think they have discovered, but the matter of the fact is their hand is steered. They are just being little promoters of something that's going on another level of reality. I know how cynical this sounds, but this is where I want to just let myself be a little bit free here in the Changemaker course material, because in the progression work, I was talking to people within the 4th cycle, and I had to take care of their kindness and their compassionate streak. Here we are in the scientific realms of the hardcore reality, working with the opposition and to transform energies, but we're also working with the polarities and seeing things as they truly are. And by that, recognize that we are surrounded by forces that are working against everything we are. And in that manner, we must size up and be ready to deal with what it is and call out what we have in front of us so that we know what we're dealing with, and then learn to respond appropriately to the situation depending on how hostile it is or how diplomatic it is, or what the root and the cause of the situation is, and what we are to deal with there. What is to be transformed, what is to be transmuted, what is to be ignored, what is to be worked with, what are the effects on our energy system, why are we seeing these kind of things, and have that streak of, I was going to say credibility, but have that streak of logical sense of looking at, every emotional belief system and denial defense mechanism kicks in here and tells me that's not what it is. But the evidence points in that direction. You know, this whole kind of improbable thing that's always said in the Sherlock Holmes movies, as in kind of when everything else is ruled out, then only the improbable, impossible explanation is the one that stands. That's kind of where science should go, but never goes. They always just keep within the safe paradigms. And the same with the human mind. It's a programming that we are having, that we're not ready to breach our comfort zone and our belief systems. We prefer to have it within the area of knowledge that we have control of. And that's why when I talk about, well, these things, you can't really deal with them until you've experienced them. So you can't study yourself into it. That was what I meant in the whole Everyday Living Club. But once you kind of have studied it, you have the basic information so that when you do experience it, it's easy for you to piece the puzzle together. Whereas if you haven't studied it, you will be completely blank slate and you will not connect the dots the right way you're supposed to. But you do not study it and then you activate. That's what I meant. That's impossible. You can't do that. You either have it or you haven't got it, as I talked about in the first course. You either have the viable genetics or you don't. You can want this as much as you like. You can study this as much as you like. But if you haven't got the talents for it, again, gospel reference, if you haven't got the viable genetics, you cannot activate. You are not capable of seeing these layers. But again, those who do have viable genetics, they can be so cloaked that they can't see either. And the cleansing work to get there is pretty harsh. But you will then get that imperative from within. You will have the viable genetics that are now in the planetary call out and activation and cleanup cycles will spark to life and kickstart you in a manner that's going to, for many of you, be quite traumatic. And that's why I want to put in the chaos pilot here. Because many of you've been dormant so far. You have not done it the slow pace as I have my entire life. Been working with my psychological level for 20 years, done 10 years within the realms of the interdimensional settings, going beyond the emotional and mental field, and breached that into the extra dimensional, where I work with the dimensions outside of our system. So interdimensional are the dimensions within our system connected to our reality field. Extra dimensional are the other dimensions that are connected to other reality fields. And I've been there, done that, because that's part of my legacy. It's part of my heritage. It's part of who and what I am. I'm just reactivating all the things I've been doing for a very, very long time. And to some degree also why I ended up here, which I will also look into in another podcast, where I will look at it from a different angle and tell a little bit of information I haven't told before, which is part of my awakening process to understand my skill sets in the times that we are going to. I always knew when I activated, I'm not here to do the fourth cycle, compassionate type of work. I always knew that. But there was a long period, 10 years, I just had to kind of work my way through the fourth cycle, so I knew what I was dealing with. And then I chose to, even though reluctantly, because it's not my area of expertise, so to speak, but I was in the middle of it. I was experiencing it. I was dealing with it. I was having conversations with people. I was working as a healer and the psychotherapist version of it. And even though I was working as a fifth cycle scientist when I was doing the healing and working with code systems from a higher approach and all of these things, I just thought to myself, well, perhaps this is a time where we activate the progression work. And there was a reason for that. I also got it as an inner calling, as in kind of, yeah, you are part of the fifth cycle. You are supposed to work scientifically. But could you, as a call out from the councils, could you please be kind to do the progression work and repeat it within the modern day era as it's supposed to be repeated, as it has been said many times before when systems go into the elevation cycles and the closing up, and by that got activated levels that went back to the pillar project, so I could do it in that manner to the original solar system humanities. Whereas most of what's out there is for the insectoids and the avians and the humanoids under the old world order system. So this is kind of the difference, and I'm kind of done with that one. So now I'm just letting the reins fall kind of here, as in kind of, let the horse run now, because I'm so sick and tired of sugarcoating things and putting them into specific things, which is the story of my life. When I was younger, I was always just being very direct, and people didn't enjoy that. So I learned to talk in a manner that was non-offensive and very diplomatic, and taking care of all people's sensitive emotions and what have you. And it had its place. If we would have continued under the old world order, it would probably been a good cloaking or what we could call diplomatic feature to have. So it was good to learn. But we are now, as I talked about in the changemaker course, we are now in a different position. Here we are where shit has hit the fan. The bombs are falling around our ears. Everything is falling apart. The world is falling apart. We don't need people to, oh yeah, you should probably do this. That would be the right way to do, but you do what you feel like doing and blah, blah, blah. This is where the ones that knows and have the insights and see the trends, see the patterns, see where things are going, are doing like the author in the movie 2012. Pack your shit, get into the fucking car. We are leaving now. Yeah, I need to eat my breakfast. We are leaving now. It's more safe to be under the table. Get your out in the car, and then they just drive along. So that's where we are, and that's why I'm shifting approach, because we have now gone from this is a possibility, oh, now it's a probability, into shit has hit the fan, we're there now. So what do we need to do, and how do we need to get there as quick as possible? Where are we going in this system that's falling apart? What is the trajectory? How do we get there? A car, plane, boat, aircraft, spacecraft, what are we dealing with here? And as I keep repeating at the end of every video, so you really get it. First step of all of this, you need to learn to master your energy system. You need to learn to get rid of the energetic parasites. You need to learn to develop your emotional field into the vibrational field. You need to learn to develop your mind field into the brain field, into the radiation field. You need to learn to work with the density energies. You need to learn the sciences of the density energies, and you need to learn the sciences of your energy system, of your template system, of the reality field you're part of. And you need to learn to see what's around you and who and what people are, discern in the right manner, understand their purpose and function, and then make the choice thereafter. Not because you're projecting something onto them, not because you want to keep up your comfort zone, not because you don't want to see what's in front of you because it scares the shit out of you, but because you're dealing with it on its appropriate level in a balanced assessment of what is going on, using the sciences in the right manner, using the principles so that you make the right choice, using the rules of engagement so you don't stir up a war, and using the laws of energy with that, all of that in a big complex package of situation, assessment, response mechanism, so that when you leave that situation, you get out on the other side and you have transformed pieces and parts of your vibrational field and your radiation field in the way you have reacted to the situation. Because we are now in this principle 4 inner outer dynamic, where everything you are on the inside will be reflected on the outside. The way you respond to the things that are on the outside will feed back into your energy system and either progress it or regress it. And that's part of the original reality dynamics, as I talked about in the whole completed courses 1 and 2, where we talk about the progression spiral and the regression spiral. And for those of you who've forgotten how genetics work there on the basic foundational level, go back and watch these 8 videos. So with this video too, I will end what I want to say for today, and I will continue the work on a later date where we have more to share and where things are moving more in the different directions, from where I will gather intel and do my research looking into reality. What does it really mean that we are now having the Martian gates opening and going into activating the 5th stargate of England and moving to the longitude that are kind of covering the longitude, the from east to west orientation. That is the northern hemisphere I've been talking about. That's where the enhanced humans will begin to position all of their projects. And what is below will go under what we understand as the southern hemisphere. So that means the southern hemisphere is now moving above the equatorial line. It's probably going all the way up to the, what do you call it? You have the one of Capricorn and you have the one of the Crab, which I forgot what it's called now. But you know these divisions, you have the equatorial line, then you have that longitude that kind of goes with, I forgot what it's called, the Crab, and then you have the one in the southern hemisphere that kind of pushes us into the Capricorn. And that is what it annoys me, I can't remember, it's completely blank, I can't find that word in my brain right now. But that means that that's the really dark area that kind of that will sink further. Then we have around equatorial, but you also know that that's going to be very hot. And now with the 4D stargate that has fallen in Egypt, that means that what has held up that reality program setting, that has kept the midpoint of our magnetic field on the planetary setting, has now collapsed on all of the different gate systems that were centered around the equatorial line. What do you call it? The equinox of, never mind. I forgot the Crab, the Capricorn. You can look it up. Look up longitude on our planet and you will get an understanding that these things are influencing our magnetic field. So we are now having when we're having the influx of the Martian 5th dimensional type of energies, which are not part of our system, but that will naturally spark to life some microbial, different types of old microorganisms that we haven't had activated for a long time, but the ones that have been elected to be part of that group, they are already getting the countermeasures as the genetic modification that is necessary, and the rest, the ripple of that one will I don't know what that's going to do. But there is a lot of stuff that will come as we move further into, as we're seeing they have implemented now. And then we can say, again, we can have all the research. This is how it's going to do and go. And we have this kind of idea of this is what will happen. But we never really know until it happens. And that is where we're showing our features as being actual chaos pilots, or we're just inflated human ego personality matrices that thinks we are more than we are, but when the shit hits the fan, we are just that little insectoid bug that is just responding in all sorts of irrational ways and are therefore not capable of really dealing with the situation as it's supposed to. It's very difficult to become a hero in human form when you're actually just an insectoid in human form. Thank you.